Hey guys, it's Aaron Carr alongside Brian Linder, Eric Epler. We're back for another bracket breakdown. We're talking the PIAA Final Four today for all 6 classifications. Guys, we're starting to get to Hershey Park Stadium. We're almost there, or the Palace as you like to call it.
You always wind up at Hershey Park Stadium. The last 6 weeks of the season, we could pitch a tent at Hershey Park Stadium and be okay. But yeah, Final Four, great time of year. We had some great matchups in quarterfinals too, so it was a pretty fun week of football.
Very eventful as always, but so we're going to start with Class 1A now. The 2 Final Four matchups, we've got Homer Center versus Steel High and Jeanette versus Farrell. Did I say that right? Farrell?
You did.
Farrell nailed it.
Mm-hmm.
Farrell out of District 10, and both of those matchups are on Friday night. So guys, those are your last 4 teams. Like I said, Homer Center, Steel High, Jeanette, and Farrell. Obviously, we've got our eyes on the Homer Center Steel High matchup, a little local favor with the Rollers here, the District 3 champs. And this is a Homer Center team that had a little bit of a victory last week, ending Bishop Guilfoyle's 59-game win streak. Okay, did we see that one coming?
No one saw that coming in the state, because Guilfoyle, even though they had not been as impressive with the margins of their victories this year as they've been in the past 3 years and winning the state title for 3 years in a row, it's still Bishop Guilfoyle, and you never expect a 59 games winning streak to lose, especially to a team that was the last time that they lost. Bishop Guilfoyle was to Homer Center before this streak began.
Oh, really?
So it was pretty impressive that Homer Center was the one that snapped it. But the most impressive thing to me was the 14 points. They held Bishop Guilfoyle to 14 points. Yes, they win. The win is shocking, but to hold Guilfoyle to 14 points in that matchup is pretty impressive to me. Guilfoyle helped them. Don't get me wrong, but that's an impressive number in my book.
Now, is this a problem for a Steel High team that likes to score?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. If you're Steel High, you're sitting there. Are you happy Guilfoyle isn't there because they were the big roadblock?
I would be.
But then there's Homer Center to beat them.
Right.
So I mean.
But if you figure if you're getting Homer Center at a good time in the playoffs, this is the right time to go out and play them. Yes, it's sort of in closer to their backyard.
Hollidaysburg.
Right, it's at Hollidaysburg. Them being closer to Indiana, so the travel for them isn't as extensive as it is for Steel High. But Steel High had a relatively easy quarterfinal game with Williams Valley. Homer Center, you can imagine how much energy was spent in winning that game. Not only against Bishop Guilfoyle, but at Mansion Park, where Guilfoyle plays home games. And it was unbelievably dynamic for them. So you would figure that this is a good time for Steel High to be playing Homer Center.
So might be a little bit of a letdown for Homer Center.
There has to be some. But now whether Homer Center, you would think, beating Guilfoyle is equipped to come back from that. But, if you give Steel High an inch, they're going to take a few yards from you. And that's the kind of offense they have. So pay attention to the weather. The weather's going to be important. You know as well as I do, Aaron, out that way in December, anything goes as far as the elements. And but Steel High has come out of this stretch here, the postseason stretch, relatively healthy. Which is a really good thing, because not many teams at this stage in Week 15 are fully healthy.
They're playing well.
Yeah, they are. They were sharp as I've seen them all year against Williams Valley last week.
Now, we've got 4 district champions left in this Final Four, which I think that's the case throughout all the classifications. But for the first time in 4 years, PIAA Class 1A will have a new champion. Now that Guilfoyle is out.
That's correct.
Not only were they had 59 wins in a row, they were also 3-time defending state champs. So we'll have a new champ. Guys, is it Homer Center? Is it Steel High? Jeanette, Farrell? Who's obviously it's one of the 4. What do we think there out of 1A?
I tell you, you can't overlook a team to beat Bishop Guilfoyle. But to me, can the Rollers do it is the question I keep running through my mind. And they are playing well. I think it would be a great story for that community. And I'm gonna say the locals have a shot here, and I think Steel High. If they beat Homer Center, right? Who else can you beat? I mean, you beat the team to beat the team, and now you're sitting there, so you can't get much stuff.
Yeah. I think
there's some good teams here.
Right on the bottom half of the bracket. The Whitfield champ Jeanette, they had a 1-point win over Amani Christian to get to this Final Four. Obviously, they'll be, they'll have something to say about that. But what do you think, Eric? Out of these last four?
I think Jeanette and Steel High will be playing for a state title next week. That's my opinion. I know the fan base is going to be outnumbered about 300 to 1 coming out at Hollidaysburg. I mean, that's a conservative number too. But the Rollers will travel pretty well, and we'll see.
Rollers make us look smart. Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
They've got the opportunity to do that.
They do.
Okay, so let's move on to Class 2A. Now we've got Southern Columbia taking on Dunmore Friday at 7 in Danville, and then Wilmington taking on Washington Friday at 7 at Slippery Rock University. So again, 4 district champions left in Class 2A: Southern Columbia, Dunmore, Wilmington, and Washington. Now, Southern Columbia, the PIAA Class 2A runner-up last year, they ran into the buzzsaw of all buzzsaws last year in 2A, Steel Valley. Steel Valley, the Ironmen are out, so you would think, hey, Southern Columbia's got a nice pass to the final, kind of like what we talked about Guilfoyle being out.
Right.
That's helping Steel High. Now Southern Columbia doesn't have to worry about that buzzsaw that they ran into last year. Are they the favorite here in 2A?
Southern was the preseason #1 for me. I've seen nothing out of the Tigers but greatness this year. I mean, they went in and knocked off an undefeated Newman Goretti with relative ease. That's not easy to do.
45-12. Yeah, that's
and that was a game for a while. The Saints hung around for a while, but this Southern team is just so darn impressive, top to bottom. And coming out of the Western side, that Washington-Wilmington game is going to be a scrum in the middle of the field because both defenses are tremendous. Actually, all 4 teams that remain in this bracket, their defense is what fuels them. I mean, yes, you talk about, some of the marquee names in Southern Columbia, some of the marquee names in Wilmington and Washington, but to me, this is all about defense. I mean, I expect Washington-Wilmington to be a war, really on the field. It's going to be impressive. I think Wilmington makes it out, and I think they take on Southern in the championship. Those are my picks.
So when I look at it, I think Southern has the best quarterback, Stone Hollenbach. I think they have the best athlete on the field, Julian Fleming.
Fleming's tremendous.
Maybe in this whole bracket.
And I think this year they are the buzzsaw. I mean, Newman Goretti was undefeated, and that team has probably 6, 7, 8 college guys on it, and they just ran through them last week. So I'm going Southern Columbia all the way here. And those are some other good teams, and I know, I haven't got to see them in person, but I know they've had some good seasons, and obviously to be here they have, but I think they're the buzzsaw this year.
Julian Fleming was very impressive at last year's title game that I covered. He had one of the touchdowns for Southern Columbia.
Kid's got 2 more years.
He's great.
Year, right? Yeah.
He's one of the top 5 prospects in the 2020 cycle, which is kind of insane to think about.
Right.
So that was 2A. Now let's move on to Class 3A. Some more local flavor. Middletown taking on Conwell Egan Saturday at Westchester Ruston High School, and then Quaker Valley taking on Sharon at North Hills High School Friday at 7. So the Blue Raiders, the undefeated District 3 champs from Middletown, PIAA Class 3A runners-up last year, trying to get back. One more win, puts them back in Hershey Park Stadium. What do we like about Brett Myers' squad here? There's a lot to like, but
every time I mention Middletown, I talk about their physical play. They're not the biggest football team out there. They won't be the biggest football team on the field come Saturday against Egan. But I tell you what, the physical nature of that football team is what impresses me the most. And they've got weapons at every spot you look at. Now, Jose Lopez, their 1,600-yard rusher, did not play last week. That is a concern. We'll see if he comes back. They do have Brady Fox. Tyree Mills stepped into the backfield and did a great job. Trey Leach we talked about Trey Leach all year being one of the most versatile guys in that division. He came and had 80-plus rushing yards in that game as well. And again, defense for Brett Myers. If you ask him the question about, hey, how'd you guys do on offense this year, the first thing he'll respond to is, we're set up for defense. And he loves to talk about those guys. And they're so versatile on defense, too. They've got probably 6 to 7 guys on that side that you can just mix in the secondary or outside linebacker, or put them up front, even walk them up to the line of scrimmage. They're that good. So I think Egan's in for a long night. I think they'll obviously give them a game. They've got some players, Patrick Harwell being one of them. He's one of the best players in the eastern half of the state. So, but again, I see Middletown making it back. I really do.
I liken their defense to the express lane at the grocery store. 10
Yes.
items or less.
Yeah.
It's been 10 points or less 12 of 13 games for the Blue Raiders.
And
That's going to keep you in a few games.
And think of all the running backs that Middletown has basically shut down. I mean, you've got a 2,000-yard guy in Onassis Steely that did very little against them. You've got Dupree Andrews at Steel High, who's probably right around 1,500 yards now. Did nothing. Actually was held in negative yards against them. I know Grant Haas, the quarterback, the versatile quarterback of Palmyra, did very little. They are set up to stop the hammer running back for the other team. Now, is Garwo a step at a different level? Absolutely. I mean, this guy has
consensus 4-star.
Yes, I mean this guy has
not a hammer. He's a bowling ball.
Yeah,
and
I know, but
that is what will make it interesting.
It's a different level,
and he's a different type of runner. He's a
squatty,
kind of physical guy who has a little bit of speed to him. To me, it all comes down to, can Middletown stop Pat Garwo? We think they can, and if they can, this might be the year.
First down again is so important in this one, because if you let Garwo get those 6-7 yards, then you set up Egan for success on that drive, and that's the down that's the all important down in this football game.
Well, this is an Egan team. It's they're pretty interesting. They're right around a 500 record. They knocked off an undefeated team last week.
They did.
Now they've got another undefeated team, Middletown, on the horizon.
Yep.
I know they've got the best player. Recruit-wise, certainly in this entire bracket. So,
and they've got good losses. I mean, quality losses, what you would call. West Catholic, O'Hara, Newman. They lost to Newman Goretti, I think, by 2 scores. So they've got some quality losses in that 6-6 where they, came in last week and took out Palisades. But that was never a game. I mean, everybody mostly in the eastern half of the state thought Palisades, okay, the run for Egan is over. They're 6-6, and they dominated that game against Palisades, who was undefeated.
Now, one thing that we're looking at in this bracket that we haven't seen in the previous two, Quaker Valley, the Whip Hill champ, got a nice pass, a free pass to the Final Four. Now, Beaver Falls was your 3A champion last year, again from the Whip Hill. They beat Middletown. So is this the competition for the bottom half of the bracket? Is that who we see, taking on Egan or Middletown?
When you hold, if somebody says, you know what, we're going to hold Aliquippa to nothing, we're going to beat Aliquippa 2-0 2 weeks ago, you know what, you get a pass. You go right in. You go right into the finals in my book, because that was the most impressive win of this entire bracket. You just don't shut out Aliquippa. You don't do it, especially not when they're my #1 team in the state. So Quaker Valley, hats off to them. They are coming in. We'll see them in about 10 days.
All right. Well, let's move on to the 4A. Now we've got some serious hammers here. Imhotep Charter taking on Bethlehem Catholic at Germantown Super Site Friday at 7, and then Birch Catholic taking on Cathedral Prep, Somerset High School Friday also at 7. So again, we've got 4 district champs here. Now we're looking at a collision course between Cathedral Prep and Imhotep once again here for the 4A title, or can Birch Catholic or Bethlehem Catholic kind of spoil the dream match?
My pick would be the collision course. Again, I think the best thing that happened to Imhotep was them to get slammed by Harrisburg in week 1. I mean, we saw probably 5 to 6 future or prospects on there that you could just tell these guys in about 8 weeks are going to be good. They're going to be really good. And I think they've proved that by winning every game since by commanding margin. So, I like Imhotep's Charter to win against Bethlehem Catholic. Catholic's very good, don't get me wrong, but I think this is probably their tipping point. This is probably the best that this team could do. On the other side, Erie, the Ramblers have been my #1 since August 1st. They haven't moved. They're tremendously talented, and people ask, well, what do you think they would do against, some of the other bigger teams and bigger classifications? And I always answer the same thing. If I had to rank my top 3 teams, there would be 2 in 6A, and the Ramblers would be 3rd. And of course, the 6A would be. We'll get to those.
Now that's what we call a tease.
I think I had them 3rd or 4th. I was doing the top 25 ranking.
Exactly. I mean, they are just tremendously
we did see them
talented
against the bigger teams. They beat Central Catholic like a drum.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think it
was a nightmare for them.
I saw Birch Catholic last week against McDevitt. That's a very good football team. They don't make a lot of mistakes. Cooper Lutz is a great player. They block, but like you said, it's a different level. If it's a perfect storm, maybe. But I think Erie's coming out. I think Cathedral Prep's going to win this, and Emotep's loaded. Tyke Smith, I think, is he's got some offers. He's the safety, back there with Aishin Young. He's got some offers, but I think he's still one of the more underrated players in the state. I don't think people recognize him for what he is. They're loaded, but I don't think anybody's stopping Cathedral Prep this year.
And in that game, which will be the first, right? If I'm not mistaken, Thursday, December 7th. That's our opening state championship game this year. I want to say the 4A.
Single A will be at 1, and then the 4A will be at 7 on Thursday.
Okay.
So it'll be second championship.
There we
game.
go.
And one more thing, everybody did send these semifinals as a good team. But when I look at this and I say, all right, Cathedral Prep's got to beat Berks, and then probably Emotep, maybe Bethlehem. They win the state title, they've earned it. Those are two really good teams that they potentially have to go through.
I think we've been pretty lucky, actually, to get down to the 4 teams that we have in each class. I mean, really. I mean, you think of what Manheim Central has had to get through, in a tough. I mean, yes, okay, they didn't have to run into Harrisburg, but you still got to get by the team that beat Harrisburg, who was number 1 all season before Mifflin took them out. So I think we've been pretty lucky. If you look top to bottom in all 6 classes, there are 4 hammer teams left. There really are. It's going to be a great semifinal round.
And if it is Emotep Charter against Cathedral Prep in the 4A finals, plenty of Penn State flavor there. Juice Scruggs, the star center for Cathedral Prep, and then of course Ashim Young that Brian touched on, the safety from Emotep that's committed to Penn State as well. So certainly a lot of recruiting analysts will be watching that game. Okay, so on to 5A. We've got Archbishop Wood in Unionville Friday at 7 at Northeast Super Site in Philly, and then Gateway and Manheim Central at Altoona Friday at 7. So again, Archbishop Wood, Unionville, Gateway, and Manheim Central. Now we've got the defending champ, District 12 champ Archbishop Wood, back in the bracket. Now you mentioned Manheim Central doesn't have to run into Harrisburg. Wood doesn't either. Okay, is this
no.
Are we handing them the title here?
I mean, it's hard to pick against Archbishop Wood the way that if you look at their schedule and their resume this year. And again, they've played some nationally ranked teams. Now again, most of those were front loaded. So you've got probably an 8-week gap now where they've had 2 bye weeks and 6 games that were basically walkovers for them.
Yeah.
To get to this point, Unionville will give them a little bit of a run, but in the end, I don't know how you don't project Archbishop Wood to get back to Hershey. I mean, that's what they do. You know what I mean? That's what they do.
I think their losses are St. Joe's Prep and Bergen Catholic.
Yeah, exactly. So 2 top 25 teams in the country, perennial. So
they're easily the most tested team here. Manheim Central's had a great year. They're more here in Central PA. They really have had a great year. They got some great players. They're battle tested, but to me, it's just a different level right on that.
So you're taking Central to get to the final?
I'm Wood.
No, to get to the final.
Oh, to get to the final.
You got to pick them against Gateway. It's a tough game. That one's tough.
It is tough, and I do like Manheim Central. You know what? Manheim Central make me look smart. I'll go local. I'll go with local flavor.
I think that game's a tremendous football game. That's a toss-up in my opinion.
Manheim Central Gateway.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, guys, make me look smart here.
Yep.
All right. Well, now we're on to the 6A bracket now. So we've got Coatesville taking on St. Joseph's Prep at Downingtown West High School Friday at 7, and then Manheim Township taking on Pine Richland at Altoona Area High School Saturday at 1. Now, we mentioned the top 2 teams in the state here. They're in this Final Four. St. Joe's Prep, Pine Richland. Is that we talked about Cathedral Prep and Emotep kind of being on that collision course.
Right.
Is this another collision course? Final that we could have predicted back when the season began?
Yes, that's the simple answer. The simple answer is yes. That's not to diss Manheim Township. That's not to diss Coatesville. But you have to do everything right to have a chance to beat a team like St. Joe's Prep or a team like Pine Richland. I mean, how do you stop a guy like Phil Jakovic If you're Manheim Township, you're coming off the biggest win in the history of your program.
First ever District 3
District 3 title. I mean, you've worked your tail off for this, and now your prize is to go against a Notre Dame recruit who has 3,500 yards passing, 1,100 rushing yards, 55 touchdowns. I mean, no one stopped this guy. And by the way, he's not playing single A schools out there. He's playing the North Alabamas. North Alleghenies. That was my first college. I apologize for that. But, you know, and he's playing hammer teams out there in quite possibly, in definitely the best 6A division in state. So, you know, and they're blowing everybody out. It's 35-point games every single time now. So the streak's luck runs out, I think, at Mansion Park. And we do get the game that everybody wants to see, and that is Hawks-Rams.
So, you talked about Manheim Township. Ton of respect for them. I feel
God, yes.
I mean, they shut out Central Dauphin. I was there for that game. It's a team that, you know, I only get to see them play once this year, but I've read about them, followed. You know, you know how we do Friday nights in here. We follow. I feel like it's a team that was good at the start of the year and got a little bit better each week. They're exactly where you'd want them to be if you were coaching them and running the program.
Right.
They've done everything they can do. The problem is they're facing a quarterback who's going to Notre Dame and a team that's just lights out. And you know, I look at the other side of the bracket, that Coatesville team. You saw them play. Some great stud athletes on that team. They're just playing a team that I think is a little bit different level too. And I think Pine Richland guys, St. Joseph Preps, you know, they came in last year and won the thing and ran away with it. DeAndre Swift and the guys, but I think this might be Pine Richland's year. I think Pine Richland.
It's going to be a whale of a game. Yeah, I think that's going to be a dartboard game. It really is. I mean, it's hard to pick against St. Joe's in that atmosphere. Every time they show up, they win. But you're right. I mean, this is the kind of team, and that's the kind of quarterback that can take them to the championship. It really could.
One thing's for sure. It looks like a lot of excitement here, you know, in these Final Four games. The state championships, of course, all 6 of them at Hershey Park Stadium next week. Guys, thanks for sitting in for PennLive's PIAA Final Four bracket breakdown, and make sure to follow PennLive.com for all your PIAA playoff coverage.